Before we dive deep into the frozen shadows of the Caucasus to uncover a secret that could rewrite human history, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're going to places the history books are afraid to mention, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Imagine, for a second, that everything you were taught about the dawn of civilization was a lie. We are told that 5,000 years ago, humans were just beginning to stack mud bricks in Mesopotamia. But deep beneath the permafrost of Russia's most treacherous mountain range, there is a structure that defies every law of archaeology and every rule of logic. It is a prehistoric megastructure, older than the pyramids, more precise than modern engineering, and so terrifying in its scale that the scientists who found it are still struggling to explain how it can exist. Our journey takes us to the southern edge of Russia, to a land of jagged peaks and ancient whispers, Kabardino-Balkaria. This is the home of Mount Elbrus, a 18,000-foot titan that stands like a frozen sentinel over a landscape of deep valleys and forests so thick that sunlight rarely touches the forest floor. The people here are as rugged as the mountains they inhabit, forged by centuries of resilience. But even the bravest locals speak of the old ones, an ancient civilization that didn't live on the mountains, but inside them. For generations, folk tales in this region haven't just been about spirits. They've been about physical anomalies. They speak of endless tunnels, underground cities, and stone passageways so perfect they look like they were cut by lasers. To most, these were just fireside myths. But to one man, Arthur Jemakov, they were a map. Jemakov wasn't your typical academic. He was a cave explorer who believed that folklore was the memory of the earth. While other scientists were busy mapping mineral deposits during the Soviet era, Jemakov was hunting for the impossible. He spent his life crawling through the most hazardous crevices in Russia. But in 2011, he found the one lead that would change everything. He heard a story from a village elder about a vertical shaft on Mount Kurora, a peak so isolated that even the local shepherds avoided it. But here is where the story takes a dark, historical turn. Yemakov discovered old, declassified military documents from World War II. In 1942, as the German army swept through the Caucasus in Operation Edelweiss, they weren't just looking for oil. Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, and a man obsessed with the occult, had sent a specialized unit known as the Ahnenerbe to this exact mountain. The Ahnenerbe were ancestral heritage hunters. They traveled from Tibet to the Middle East, searching for the mythical kingdom of Shambhala, a hidden underground realm of advanced technology. And according to these wartime reports, the Nazis found something at Mount Kurora. They found a mark, a swastika carved into the high-altitude rock, right next to a narrow, bottomless opening. When Jemakov finally stood on the rocky slope of Mount Kurora in 2011, the air was thin and the wind was a constant scream. He pushed aside centuries of erosion and vegetation to find it, a narrow, vertical slit in the stone. This wasn't a jagged natural cave mouth. It was a perfect rectangle, its edges as sharp as a razor, plunging straight down into the black heart of the mountain. He peered into the abyss. Initial measurements showed a drop of 130 feet, the height of a 12-story building, straight down. As he secured his ropes and checked his gear, Yemakov knew that if the legends were true, he wasn't just entering a cave, he was entering a machine. The descent was a nightmare of claustrophobia. The shaft was so narrow that the team's shoulders scraped the walls. But as their headlamps flickered against the stone, they realized something that made their blood run cold. The walls weren't rock, they were blocks. Massive, rectangular slabs of stone fitted together with such precision that you couldn't slide a human hair between the seams. The surfaces were polished, parallel, and completely devoid of the jagged edges you'd find in any natural cave. They were 100 feet down, suspended by thin nylon ropes, looking at a wall that should not exist. And that's when the air began to change. It wasn't just cold anymore. It was stagnant, heavy, and silent in a way that felt intentional. Before we continue our descent into the impossible, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any part of this unfolding mystery. We are just scratching the surface of what lies beneath the Caucasus. Part 2. The Hall of the Giants. The team's boots finally touched solid ground, but the relief was short-lived. As their boots crunched against the stone floor, the narrow, suffocating walls of the shaft suddenly vanished. They weren't in a cave anymore. They were standing in a void. When they swept their high-powered flashlights across the darkness, the beams didn't hit a wall. They were swallowed by the sheer scale of the space. They had entered the Great Chamber, an underground room so vast it felt like a cathedral built for giants. The ceiling soared nearly 120 feet above them, a height that defied the crushing weight of the mountain pressing down from above. But it wasn't just the size that paralyzed them. It was the construction. This wasn't a hollowed-out cavern. The walls were composed of massive rectangular megaliths. Each block was a masterpiece of geometry, with sharp corners and sides so smooth they looked polished. Yemakov paced the length of a single block, his mind racing through his years of geological training. These weren't the small bricks of a medieval castle. These were titans. Estimates suggested some of these stones weighed over 200 tons. To put that in perspective, that is the weight of a Boeing 747, carved from solid rock and placed hundreds of feet beneath the earth with the precision of a Swiss watch. The seams between the blocks were almost invisible. Even today, with our diamond-tipped saws and laser-guided cranes, we struggle to achieve this level of zero-tolerance masonry. Yet here it was, buried under the Russian permafrost, predating every known civilization. But as the team explored the perimeter, a chilling realization set in. In any ancient human site, whether it's the Roman catacombs or the tombs of Egypt, you find signs of life. You find soot on the ceiling from torches, scraps of pottery, discarded tools, or even simple graffiti. Here, there was nothing. No smoke stains, no debris. The chamber was clinically, terrifyingly clean. It was as if the structure hadn't been built to be lived in, but to function. This is where the theory of the ancient generator comes into play. Some researchers who followed Jemakov's trail suggested that the Kurora shaft wasn't a tomb or a temple, but a technical installation. The way the blocks are arranged, the specific angles of the walls, and the subterranean depth suggest it could have been designed to harness the Earth's acoustic energy or natural forces that modern science has yet to categorize. As they pushed deeper into the chamber, they found narrow branching corridors. These weren't meant for human passage. Even the slimmest member of the team had to squeeze through sideways. The walls in these vents were just as smooth, the corners just as sharp. It looked like a ventilation system for a massive machine, or perhaps a conduit for something far more dangerous. The air in the chamber was stagnant and oppressive. Every sound they made, the click of a carabiner, a heavy breath, echoed and amplified, bouncing off the polished megaliths in a way that felt like the mountain was whispering back. It was in this heavy silence that Jemakov remembered the Nazi reports. In 1942, when the SS Ahnenerbe reached this region, they were obsessed with world ice theory and the idea of a lost Aryan superpower. They believed that the Earth was hollow, or at least honeycombed with tunnels leading to the true north power source. The swastika found near the entrance of the Kurora shaft wasn't just a soldier's mark. It was a sign that the Nazis believed they had found the door to Shambhala. Did they go inside? The Soviet records are maddeningly thin, but local legends say that during the war, German soldiers were seen hauling heavy equipment toward the peaks, and they didn't all come back down. Some researchers speculate that the German interest in the Caucasus wasn't just about the oil fields of Baku, but about a superweapon hidden in the stone. They were looking for the power of the Old Ones, a technology that could manipulate the very fabric of reality. As Jemakov stood in the center of that 120-foot tall hall, he felt the weight of that history. He wasn't just looking at rocks. He was looking at a gap in our memory. If this structure was man-made, it means that thousands of years before the first pharaoh, there was a civilization with the power to move mountains. And if it wasn't man-made, if this was a natural formation, then everything we know about geology is a lie, because nature does not build in 200-ton perfect rectangles. But the most terrifying part of the story isn't what Yemakov found. It's what happened to him after he came back up. When Arthur Jemakov and his team finally hauled themselves back up those 130 feet of vertical, razor-sharp stone, they didn't emerge into the sunlight with a sense of triumph. Instead, they carried a heavy, lingering dread. They had seen something that shouldn't exist, a structure that challenged the very foundations of human history. But the true mystery wasn't just what they found inside Mount Karora. It was what happened when they tried to tell the world. In any other field of science, a discovery of this magnitude, 200-ton blocks fitted with sub-millimeter precision, would have brought hundreds of archaeologists, geologists, and cameras to the site. But in the wake of Jemakov's 2011 expedition, a strange, suffocating silence settled over the Caucasus. There were no official press releases. No government-funded surveys were launched to map the miles of branching corridors the team had glimpsed in the dark. Instead, the scientific community seemed to look the other way. For the public, this lack of information has only intensified the mystery, transforming Karora into a hub for imagination and dark speculation. Scientists today remain hindered by a total lack of institutional support, unable to draw conclusions because the data simply isn't being collected. Why would official organizations ignore a prehistoric megastructure that could be the Great Pyramid of the North? The answer might lie in what was missing from the chamber. Unlike every other ancient ruin on Earth, Kahora yielded no pottery, no tools, and no signs of daily human life. There were no soot stains from torches on those 120-foot ceilings, which suggests that whoever, or whatever, built this place didn't use fire for light. It appears as though the place was never intended for people to live in at all. This absence of normal human artifacts is more unsettling to researchers than finding them would have been. It hints at an intelligence that we cannot grasp, an intelligence that built a 12-story deep vertical shaft and massive underground halls for a purely technical or practical purpose that remains unknown to us. Some have suggested that the Karora shaft was a component of a massive ventilation system for an even larger underground city, or perhaps an ancient generator designed to draw energy directly from the Earth's crust. If this is true, it means that long before the first written civilizations of Mesopotamia or Egypt, there were builders who were as skilled as, or even better than, today's most advanced engineers. The implications are terrifying for modern science. If the shaft is man-made, we have to throw away our history books and rethink everything we know about human evolution. If it is natural, then geologists have to admit that the Earth is capable of creating artificial geometry, perfect rectangles, straight walls, and parallel lines, using forces we don't understand. Both options reveal a massive hole in our understanding of the world. Today, the only evidence that remains for the public are the photographs taken by Alexander Splashnov, showing those impossibly smooth surfaces and geometric angles deep within the mountain. The discussion has moved from the laboratories to the corners of the internet, where people analyze every blurred photo and every whisper of local legend. Jemukov himself became a part of the narrative, the man who looked behind the curtain and found something the world wasn't ready to see. The stories of the tragedies that followed his discovery continue to haunt the region, blending with the ancient myths of underground kingdoms. Whether Karora is a tomb of a forgotten race, an ancient machine, or a freak of nature, it serves as a cold reminder of how much of our planet remains hidden in the shadows. It challenges us to keep our minds open and our hearts curious, searching for the truth beneath the frozen ground. If you look at the Great Pyramid of Giza, you see a structure that most believe was a tomb, despite no mummies ever being found there. At Karora, the similarities are so striking they are impossible to ignore. The clean, straight walls, found deep in the Caucasus Mountains, are almost identical in craftsmanship to the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid. We are talking about massive stone blocks fitted together with such remarkable accuracy that the seams are nearly invisible to the naked eye. But if it's not a tomb, what is it? This is where we move from archaeology into the realm of forbidden technology. Many researchers believe the Karora shaft was never meant for human habitation because it lacks every single sign of life. No pottery, no tools, and no soot from the torches that would have been required to see in the pitch black. Instead, the design points toward a technical, almost industrial purpose. One of the most compelling theories is that the shaft functioned as an ancient energy generator. The precise geometric angles and the near-perfect symmetry of the polished stone surfaces suggest a design meant to control or funnel natural forces, forces like sound, vibration, or even the Earth's own electromagnetic energy. Some experts have proposed that the entire structure could have been an energy passage or a chamber designed to manipulate natural forces in ways that modern science cannot yet calculate. But there is a bolder idea. Some researchers suggest that what Arthur Jemukov found isn't just a shaft. It's the foundation of a massive buried pyramid. According to this theory, the megalithic chamber and the 120-foot tall hall are actually the solid subterranean base of a structure that was once visible on the surface, but has since been swallowed by the shifting crust of the earth or hidden by prehistoric cataclysms. If this is true, we are looking at a structure that would make the pyramids of Giza look like child's play. We are talking about 200-ton blocks, the weight of roughly 150 cars, suspended and moved into a mountain with a precision that would require advanced machinery, tools, and engineering expertise that we are told didn't exist in ancient times. This is exactly why the scientific community is terrified. If they admit this structure is man-made, the entire timeline of human evolution collapses. It would mean that long before Egypt or Mesopotamia, a civilization existed that possessed technology we are only just beginning to dream of. It would mean that a significant portion of human history has simply disappeared. But the natural explanation is just as disturbing. Geologists argue that water erosion or volcanic activity can create strange shapes. But nature doesn't create 12-story vertical shafts with perfectly parallel, smooth walls and 90-degree corners. If this formed on its own, it is a geological occurrence that has never been seen anywhere else in the world. It would mean our planet is capable of intelligent design through forces we don't understand. The Great Silence. The most chilling part of the Karora story isn't the 200-ton blocks. It's the active suppression of information. After the initial excitement of Jemukov's discovery, everything stopped. There are no official maps, no peer-reviewed scientific papers, and no state-funded archaeological surveys. The site has been left to a mysterious silence that keeps the public in the dark and leaves independent scientists without the data they need to reach a conclusion. Why has research come to a halt? Why are there no official studies? Some believe the answers found at the bottom of that 130-foot shaft were too dangerous for the public to know. They wonder who built it, where they went, and why there are no signs of them anywhere else. Today, Karora exists only in the memories of the few who went down and the photographs of those who dare to share them online. It stands as a silent sentinel in the Caucasus, a reminder that we are walking on top of a history we haven't even begun to understand. We've reached the edge of the known world, but the rabbit hole goes even deeper. What do you think is hidden in the parts of the mountain we haven't reached yet? Is it a weapon, a power source, or a tomb for something that isn't human? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to see the declassified documents from the Nazi expedition to this mountain, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. We're just getting started. This is the mystery of Karora. Before we dive into the most unsettling discovery made at the bottom of the shaft, stop what you're doing and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss a deep dive into the mysteries that define our existence. While the massive size of the blocks at Mount Karora is enough to baffle any engineer, it wasn't just the visual scale that unnerved Arthur Jemakov's team. It was the sound. In the deep silence of the 120-foot-tall hall, the explorers noticed a strange acoustic phenomenon. Every footstep, every whisper, and even the rhythmic thumping of their own hearts seemed to vibrate through the floor and return to them as a low-frequency hum. This wasn't a random echo. Some researchers believe the chamber was designed as a resonance chamber, a massive acoustic machine. If the shaft and the chamber were man-made, their purpose might have been to capture the infrasonic frequencies of the Earth itself. Geologists know that the Earth produces a constant, low-frequency vibration. In a precisely engineered stone structure, these waves can be amplified. Was Karora a prehistoric tuning fork? Some theorists argue that this energy wasn't just for show. They suggest that the energy passage could control natural forces in ways that are still unknown to modern science. If the builders of the Caucasus megaliths were the same ones who designed the Great Pyramid of Giza, as many people have begun to wonder, then we are looking at a forgotten global network of power plants. The clean, straight walls and the remarkable accuracy of the stone seams mirror the grand gallery of the Great Pyramid so closely that a connection between these civilizations seems almost certain. But if this was a machine, who was the operator? The mystery deepens when you realize that despite the chamber's perfection, there is zero evidence of human activity. In any ancient mine or tomb, archaeologists find pottery, discarded tools, or soot from torches. But at Karora, the walls are pristine. There are no tools, no artifacts, and no markings of daily use. It is a clinical, sterile environment that suggests it was never intended for humans to live in. This absence of life is more unsettling than finding a skeleton would have been. It hints at an intelligence that operated on a scale we cannot grasp. An intelligence that moved 200-ton blocks not to build a home, but to build a function. The design seems purposeful, but for a technical application that modern science is not yet ready to accept. As the team moved further into the branching corridors, they found the spaces became increasingly tight. Even the smallest member of the expedition had trouble squeezing through these vents. These weren't hallways, they were conduits. The walls here were just as smooth, the corners just as sharp, proving that these were deliberate cuts, not natural cracks in the rock. Standing in the stagnant, oppressive air, Jemukov realized that they weren't just standing in a cave. They were inside the engine of a civilization that history has forgotten. And as he looked up the 130-foot vertical drop toward the surface, he knew that the hardest part of the journey wouldn't be the climb. It would be trying to convince the world that what he had found was real. When Arthur Jemukov returned from the depths of Mount Kurora, he was a changed man. He had dedicated his life to researching caves throughout Russia, but this discovery was different. He had successfully blended traditional folk stories with scientific investigation, proving that the old legends of underground cities were more than just myths. But the Kurora shaft seemed to have a gravity of its own, one that pulled in anyone who tried to reveal its secrets. Shortly after the initial exploration, the momentum for a follow-up expedition began to fail. Despite the incredible photographs taken by Alexander Splashnov showing geometric shapes and smooth surfaces that appeared far too perfect to be natural, the scientific community began to pull back. No official maps were released, and no peer-reviewed articles were published. Then, the tragedies began. The narrative of Kurora became intertwined with stories of the researchers who initially investigated the shaft. While official reports are scarce, local legends and internet forums are filled with accounts of the misfortunes that befell the team members. From sudden illnesses to unexplained accidents, the silent mystery of the mountain seemed to extend to those who tried to break its silence. This lack of support from institutions has effectively halted all progress. Scientists today find themselves in a catch-22. They cannot draw conclusions without more data, but the data is being suppressed or ignored by the very organizations that should be funding the research. This vacuum of information has left the public to piece together the truth from bits and pieces of a promising but unfinished picture. The question remains, who is afraid of what lies beneath the Caucasus? Is it the government, fearing the discovery of an ancient technology that could destabilize modern power? Or is it the academic world, refusing to acknowledge a structure that would force them to rewrite every textbook on human development? Long before Egypt or Mesopotamia, there were skilled builders in these mountains who were as good as, or even better than, today's engineers. Their society disappeared without a trace, leaving only these massive, silent blocks as a testament to their power. Whether man-made or a geological miracle, Kurora stands as a reminder that the timeline of human evolution is far more complex than we have been led to believe. As we stand in the silent, 120-foot-tall cathedral beneath the Russian permafrost, we have to ask, why does this look so familiar? The eerie resemblance between the Kurora shaft and the world's most famous ancient structures is not a coincidence. Researchers have noted that the clean, straight walls and the precision-fitted blocks discovered here are nearly identical to the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid of Giza. But it doesn't stop in Egypt. This global signature, the use of massive megalithic blocks weighing over 200 tons, can be seen from the statues of Easter Island to the trilithons of Stonehenge. We are forced to consider a radical possibility. Did these ancient civilizations share advanced architectural knowledge across vast distances in the deep past? Is it possible there was a connection between these cultures that modern history has simply forgotten? If the Kurora shaft is man-made, it suggests a civilization thrived in the Caucasus region long before the rise of Egypt or Mesopotamia. This discovery disrupts our entire understanding of human progress. We are looking at engineering techniques, precise cutting and perfect alignment, that were thought to be developed thousands of years later. The sheer scale of the 200-ton blocks suggests the use of machines, tools, and expertise that shouldn't have existed in prehistoric times. This leads us to the most daring theory of all, the global energy network. Some researchers believe Kurora wasn't a tomb or a temple, but an ancient generator. Its design suggests it may have been an energy passage or a chamber intended to control sound or natural forces in ways that still baffle modern science. If Karora was a power plant drawing energy from the earth, then the pyramids in Egypt and the megaliths in Europe might have been part of the same circuit. This is likely why the Nazi Ahnenerbe were so obsessed with this specific mountain range during Operation Edelweiss. They weren't just looking for oil, they were hunting for the mythical land of Shambhala, a hidden kingdom of advanced technology and ancient knowledge. The swastika carvings found near the Karora shaft suggest that the Nazis believed they had found a doorway to this lost power. Today, the site remains a mystery because it defies every explanation we have. If it is man-made, we have to rethink history. If it is natural, we have to rewrite geology. This is why scientists are terrified. Every potential solution leads to more questions than it solves. Don't go anywhere. We are about to reveal the final, most haunting piece of evidence regarding the fate of the researchers who first entered this shaft. Make sure you've liked the video and subscribed so you don't miss the conclusion to this epic mystery. While the official halls of academia remain silent, a different kind of investigation has been brewing in the shadows of the internet. Because no official or verified studies have ever been released, no peer-reviewed articles or official maps that could give us insights into what lies beneath, the burden of truth has fallen onto the shoulders of independent researchers and the public. This mysterious silence from government organizations has only served to intensify the public's curiosity. The only tangible evidence we have left are the haunting photographs captured by Alexander Splashnov. These images reveal geometric shapes and surfaces so smooth they seem to glow with an unnatural precision deep within the shaft. For many, these photos are the smoking gun, showing shapes that are simply too perfect to have been carved by the chaotic hands of nature. Yet, the scientific world remains at a standstill, hindered by a total lack of institutional support. This is the digital resistance. Across various platforms, people are piecing together the descriptions provided by Arthur Gemikoff and the few scraps of information that have leaked out. They are analyzing the blocks, those massive titans weighing over 200 tons, and asking the questions the experts refuse to answer. If these blocks were arranged in such perfect order that it's difficult to see where one ends and another begins, how can we possibly call this a natural formation? The discussion has evolved into a battle of interpretations. On one side, you have the skeptics who believe it is a strange geological fluke. On the other, those who see Karora as the ultimate proof of a lost, hyper-advanced civilization. Both sides are working with limited data, but the weight of the evidence found in the Caucasus Mountains, the sheer intent and importance of the chamber, cannot be overlooked. If we are to follow the official line, we must believe that the Karora shaft is a product of geology. But this presents a paradox that is almost more terrifying than the idea of ancient aliens. Geologists explain caves through water erosion, tectonic activity, or volcanic flows. However, none of these recognized processes can account for the perfectly straight walls, sharp 90-degree corners, and tightly fitting blocks observed in the Karora shaft. In the natural world, we see patterns like basalt columns, but they are always rough, uneven, and distinctively geological. The Karora shaft, by contrast, displays an alignment and features that resemble man-made construction rather than any natural process. It doesn't fit into any recognized category of rock formation. If this structure formed on its own, it would represent a completely new and unfamiliar geological phenomenon never seen anywhere else on the planet. This discovery would force us to question our current knowledge of rock formations and how the Earth's crust works. It suggests that our planet might be capable of creating formations that we don't yet comprehend. This is why scientists are so disturbed. If they admit it's man-made, we have to rethink history. If they admit it's natural, we have to question the basics of geology. Both options leave massive holes in our understanding, revealing how much we still don't know about our world. Even more troubling is the absolute silence of the structure itself. In every other archaeological site, from the smallest cave dwelling to the largest pyramid, there are signs of human activity, such as pottery, tools, carvings, or even soot from torches. But at Karora, there is nothing. There are no tools, artifacts, or markings of daily use. It's as if the structure was never intended for humans to live in. It hints at an intelligence and an intention that we simply cannot grasp. As we stand in the silent, 120-foot-tall cathedral beneath the Russian permafrost, the sheer scale of the construction forces us to consider a possibility that sounds like science fiction. Some researchers have looked at the precision of the massive blocks, those 200-ton titans, and suggested that the Karora shaft wasn't a standalone structure. Instead, they believe it may have been a component of a much larger underground structure designed to serve as a complex ventilation system or an energy passage. But there is a bolder theory that sends chills down the spines of traditional archaeologists. They suggest that the Karora shaft may have been the foundation of a massive buried pyramid. According to this belief, what Arthur Gemikov and his team discovered was merely the solid base of a gargantuan structure that was once visible on the surface, but has since been swallowed by time and the shifting earth. The technical details of the site support this ambitious idea. The surfaces of the shaft are smooth, featuring geometric angles and a near-perfect symmetry that defies any natural geological explanation. Every aspect of the shaft seems to imply a purpose and design that went beyond what could be explained by geology. In addition, some researchers believe the shaft could have been an ancient generator designed to draw energy directly from the earth. These theories cannot be easily ignored because the structure's design, resembling the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid of Giza, points toward a mastery of architectural knowledge shared across civilizations we have since forgotten. If scientists were ever to officially confirm that the Karora site is man-made, it would become the largest and most complex ancient structure ever discovered. The impact would be seismic. The existence of these massive underground blocks would force experts to reconsider the entire history of humanity. It would push back the timeline of advanced technology by thousands of years, challenging everything we think we know about early civilizations. Schools, museums, and textbooks worldwide would have to be updated. We would have to acknowledge that long before the rise of Egypt or Mesopotamia, there were skilled builders who were as competent as, or even superior to, modern engineers. This finding would shock archaeologists and fundamentally change our understanding of human evolution. We would be forced to ask, who were these builders? How did they achieve such precision? And why did their society disappear without leaving a single trace elsewhere? The mystery deepens because of what is missing from the site. Archaeologists usually find evidence of life: pottery, tools, carvings, or soot from torches. But none of these have been found in Karora. There are no artifacts of daily use, suggesting the place was never intended as a home, a tomb, or a mine. For many researchers, the absence of these normal signs is more unsettling than finding them would have been. It hints at an intelligence and a technical purpose that we are simply unable to grasp. As research on the Karora shaft has come to a halt today, we are left with more questions than answers. No official or verified studies have been released, and the lack of thorough research has kept the site out of the public spotlight, leading to a silence that both intrigues and disappoints the scientific community. Without data, scientists are unable to draw conclusions, leaving the mystery to be fueled by imagination and ongoing online conversations. Whether Karora is a natural miracle or a man-made masterpiece, its impact remains significant. Humans have always been captivated by the incomprehensible, from the pyramids of Egypt to the ruins of Stonehenge and the statues of Easter Island. Karora serves a similar purpose, sparking curiosity and symbolizing the eternal human quest to discover the unknown depths of our world. The mystery of the Karora shaft is more significant than any specific answer, because it highlights the vastness of our world and the many unknowns that still exist. Located in the Caucasus Mountains, it remains a symbol of human curiosity, fear, and imagination. It is a stark reminder of how much we still have to learn about our planet and our past. Sometimes, not being aware of the full truth is what keeps the search going, keeping our minds open and our hearts curious about what is hidden underneath. Thank you for sticking with us through this deep dive into the shadows of the Caucasus. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can join us for our next investigation. The truth is out there, and together we will find it.